we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
What's up, Cory?
Hey, what's up, dude?
What's up, people?
Hi, peoples. It's been a minute.
Yeah, a 2-week minute. What's new? I was sick for a week and a half.
Ooh, talk about your laryngitis thing.
Yeah.
Can you?
Sure. Every time I hate myself for doing a bad, or what I consider to be like a bad show, like a performance, singing. Mm-hmm. When it gets real, like if I haven't done it in a long time and then I do it and then I hate myself for having done it, or I just wasn't happy with the performance. Mm-hmm. There's been at least 4 times in my life where that I've gotten laryngitis within a few days of the event. And it's super, I mean,
so weird. The
psychosomatic connection. Like, yeah. I don't know what goes on. Maybe
I do.
You do?
I know all of it.
Tell me.
But I would say, like we were talking about earlier, how just stress can really.
That's right. Yeah.
It seems like I always get sick when I either don't get enough sleep or I just have too much stress, and then next thing I know, like, oh no, my throat. Oh no, my nose. Like what?
Yeah, stress lowers your immune system,
there
right?
You go. Yeah. Maybe that has something to do with your thing.
And stress too is like it's like a wildfire, because then whatever it is that started the stress, it turns you into like a person who looks around and finds negativity and stress and more in other things. It's sort of like bleeds, like it just spreads like wildfire. Like you're stressed about one thing and that thing sucks too, and everything and then it feels like the end of the world, and then your body goes and you have like stress hormones are probably released as you're going through that, and your immune system takes a dive.
That sounds technical. Stress hormones. It sounds like a word that a doctor would.
It's legit, right?
Yeah, it's good. No, that's got to have something to do with it, though.
I'm sure it does. I just wonder if I have this like dormant virus that's like always ready to like take over if my immune system goes down, and then I have like a mental. It's just weird that the issue is I hate what happened in my throat, and then that's exactly where the sickness starts.
Wow.
I don't know. It's like if you're a soccer player, you're like, dang this foot for like not making the goal, and then all of a sudden you get a broken ankle. Mm-hmm. It's weird.
You're putting all your intention on that one space or that one piece of your body or something. Who knows?
That mind-body connection is strange, because just listen to Rogan's podcast, and he had a doctor on whose name I can't remember, but he's talking about the placebo effect, and then the opposite of that is the nocebo effect, which is the opposite. It's when you believe, like the placebo effect is just belief making a difference. So you can take, if you think it's a pill that's going to help you and it's just a sugar pill, it doesn't do anything. The belief that it'll help you is what.
So doubt would be the opposite effect?
Doubt or some sort of real negative thing. Like they started to relate the nocebo effect to putting curses on people.
Oh,
like if you make somebody believe that you've like cursed them,
that
they'll like be like it's going to happen, and then they'll manifest it in their life, or their biology will even manifest it somehow.
We should try that. I'm gonna try cursing you later. See what happens.
You will get a runny nose.
I'm scared right now. It worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that had a lot to do. When they used to believe in hexes and stuff and witch trials and all that stuff that which is funny because they didn't. You would say, oh, they just called it that, or they labeled it possession when they just didn't know any better. But like we still don't really know. We're still talking about this weird connection between your mind and your body and how you affect the other. And like we don't really exactly know why, other than it's all tied together.
Yeah,
the nervous system.
And this may sound slightly disconnected, but my favorite analogy that I've always like thought of is things could be like I picture myself out at the cabin, which is like this desolate, there's not a lot of people around. It's really dark at night, and it can feel super serene. Like I've always, me and Natalie talk about it. It's like it's the best place to be happy, and it's the worst place to be depressed.
Oh yeah.
Because you're in nature and it's awesome, or you're in nature and it's
going to eat you.
You're isolated. But I always think about the forensic files effect. You can be having a fine night, and if you're just like, oh, I need to go get something in the backyard, and it's dark outside, you just go out and do it. Mm-hmm. But if you watch an episode of Forensic Files, you walk out in your backyard and you're like, there's a killer hiding out here. Like, I need to bring a flashlight, maybe a knife. Like, Or you watch Forensic Files, turn the TV off, and you're like, your own house is scary now. Like this almost feels like there's this.
It's like a horror movie. You know, I'm not a huge avid horror movie fan, but every October when it becomes Halloween season, I always start, okay, it's time to start watching horror movies. Because then it gets you in this creepy, that's what it does though. It gets you in this thing. And then no matter what, you could be a 40-year-old man and you turn off the TV after the horror movie's over at midnight and it's dark in your house. And then like, I have one of those fluorescent lights in my little toilet room.
Okay.
And it's burning out. So when you turn it on, it starts up, it goes flip, 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 and flickers. And then it's like this really gross fluorescent light, you know? And it's just, I always think of it just reminds me of a horror movie because they use that trick all the time. Like the lights, and then they come on. And
turns off, turns on. There's a monster.
Yeah, I'm always, as soon as it turns on, I'm like, is there going to be something in front of me? It's in the back of my head. Like you just, no matter how old you get, no matter whatever you're taking in, it's kind of lingers a little bit. Even if it's ridiculous, like you think there's a ghost or something.
And it's strange. So what happens, obviously maybe you have like an adrenaline rush, your cortisol levels maybe rise, and then that has a physical effect on your body, and then it makes you act different. Imagine if that's the state you were in. Like, I don't know, even just the reality version, which is like being a police officer. Every day you're sort of, okay, is this the traffic stop where
this guy could have a knife?
The guy has a knife, or he's wanted and has a warrant out or something. Yep. And you're on red alert all the time. And it affects the way you act, and then that again lowers your immune response. I don't know. We're kind of all over the place, aren't we?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm scared now. We were going to talk about something you saw on your drive back down south. Was it late at night?
It was a daytime.
Daytime?
Yeah. You called it the artistic rubberneck. After I sent you I made a voice note of this. I was having we should talk about this on the podcast moment. So it was Sunday. Yeah, it was like evening, I guess. Sunday at 6:00, driving down the 15 south towards Julian. And there was it was like complete traffic, 5 miles an hour, like stop and go. So I'm like, must be an accident. There's usually no traffic. And so just sitting there musing on that, and then 5 miles of bumper to bumper, and then you find, and all there is like a minor fender bender on the side of the road with a cop, and then everybody speeds up. I was like, this is so stupid. Like everybody, I started thinking about, well, what I noticed is I went up there and I'm like, it's just looky-loo traffic. Like,
did you look?
And then I stopped and looked. Yeah. So then I'm like, but I actually need to know what's going on here.
Yeah, it's
I'm going to slow down and look.
Because I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. As if I'm going to stop and help. No. And then I realized everybody probably feels that way. Like if you were to have a board meeting, everybody who went on the freeway that day, we had a preliminary board meeting. Okay, if we see a fender bender on the freeway, we're all going to agree to continue going 70 and there'll be no traffic? Or would you rather know what happened? I think everybody would be like, I'd rather just not slow down and spend a half an hour going.
But it's different when everybody else slows down in front of you and then they're doing it and you're like, well, no, I want to know because they know. I can't not know if they know.
Yeah.
And you just kind of,
But it's morbid curiosity. It's just.
Yeah. You're looking for blood. Looking for a sheet on the ground somewhere.
Yeah. So I started thinking about that relative to, it's because it's a herd mentality. We're all kind of going against the ethic that we believe would be best for everybody by kind of just, I don't know, we'd all rather have no traffic and agree not to look.
Yeah.
Which I feel like every time there's an accident like that, they should just put a curtain up and then it would stop traffic. So for some reason my mind went to, this is almost what happens in culture when there's if you're a singer, songwriter, artist, or producer, or whatever, somebody in that world, whatever's popular at the time is like becomes sort of it's the best way to make money. It's where success is like like right now, pop music is, or for the past few years, I guess, hip hop has really kind of gotten into every area of pop.
If you knocked it over,
so highly,
that'd be so sad.
I know. So big pop artists that maybe like during the Katy Perry Teenage Dream days, which is like when it was like one of the biggest records ever, had more number or equal amount of number one singles as like the biggest Beatles record or something.
Whoa.
The success of that record was off the charts. And that was a very much a pop record in the purest sense. Mm-hmm. It was a very distinct sound that Dr. Luke and Max Martin had come up with. But it wasn't very hip-hop influenced. Mm-hmm. Maybe in a light way with the programming, but not really. Mm-hmm. But I think since that era, when was that? 2008, 9, 10, when she was huge?
I guess.
Something like that, when that record was around.
Not that long ago.
But since then, hip-hop has sort of become the thing. Like that's the cool sound that you put in a pop song. Is 808s
and all that,
And then you have a rapper come on the Ariana Grande song or whatever it is. So I almost feel like whatever that cultural thing is that's grabbing all of our attention, whether we like it or not, is sort of like the car accident on the side of the road. Mm-hmm. Everybody is on their own path, let's say, doing what they artistically want to do, but then there's this trend that comes out, and that's the car accident. Everybody looks and goes like, "Oh, got to be aware that hip hop programming is the thing that's big right now," and we all slow down and look over there and go, and so then you get everybody in the industry is sort of looking the same direction and slowing down and going, "How do I copy that?" And how much of that should I bring in? And is that going to be the pathway to me having success? And I need to integrate that into my own toolbox or whatever.
Right.
And meanwhile, the flow of traffic of artists following their instinctual drive,
going home or driving wherever they're driving,
where they want to be.
Yeah.
It's now slowed from 70 to 5 miles an hour, and the progression of unique artists doing unique things or unique producers doing unique things has kind of slowed, and we're all looking in that same direction. And it could be a negative or a positive, but I don't even know what I mean by that.
That's cool because when you first brought that to my attention, I don't know if this is exactly what you meant at the time, but I kind of saw it a different way. I thought more along the lines of if you take like trends or whatever out of it, we're just talking about the artist itself in his car, distractions outside of his artistry, like it's not necessarily a distraction about what's popular or what's trendy, but you have to have, if you're gonna be creative, you have to stay, there has to be a focus, right? There has to be some sort of like strong focus so that you can finish your thing or stay on that path of whatever that creative endeavor is, whether you're doing a film or whatever, I don't know, writing something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll never finish it, or you get distracted, and then it screws up your process.
You're saying any distraction.
I was thinking more like
life rubberneck.
Something anything that can distract you. Of course, and the older you get, the more busy and more responsibilities and stuff. There's distractions everywhere from your creative path.
It's like
but
survival.
There's stuff that's intentional and stuff that you don't.
What would be an example for you personally that would fall into that?
For me, the first thing I think of is. This is going to sound weird, and it's also music related, but it's not on the path, is gear. Like just being a guitar player and then like trying to get into recording and buying a new mic. And with guitar players, we're obsessed with like sounds and stomp boxes and amps. And a lot of us, I'm not going to say people because I do it too all the time. We get like all excited about the gear part. And then that's all we think about. And then we get the blinders on and it's like, oh, this is so exciting, this new thing. And then I just got this new toy and it's kind of like a toy. And it's, oh, this is to make the music. But at some point you forget that and you're like just obsessed with the gear. And that's like a huge distraction for me sometimes. Because then the end of that little road is that you have that piece of gear or whatever it is, or you understand that piece of gear now. And then you go, cool, where's the next piece of gear? Because if you're not going to use it, like you're originally intending, that's just a distraction.
So
right?
here's a little. What do you think about this as to why that happens, and maybe why it's? Hate to get into a gender-y discussion here, but it's one of the basic psychological principles that's accepted as being fairly true is that women are more interested in people and guys are more interested in things. Mm-hmm. And you can see that in little kids. Like, little girls want baby dolls, and little boys want trains and stuff.
Right.
They like things,
Gadgets
trucks
and stuff.
trucks and trains and gadgets, and girls are more relational. And
my little daughter's like that. She was like that from day one. As soon as
Baby
she started
dolls
playing
and-
with, it's like, and it's her family. She calls it. She says, "They were calling for me. They wanted their mama." Like we were just doing that the other day. She puts
fascinating. It's
all
just-
of her dolls in the bed together and lays them all out. No one ever taught her that. She just lays them all out. For some reason, she has to have them naked. Every little doll, she's, "Help, Daddy, get this dress off." They all have to be naked for some reason, and then they all lay down face first on the pillow, and she'll cover them with the
face
blanket.
first.
A lot of times, yeah. Sometimes
This
she'll like
sounded kind
stack
of
'em up.
mean.
She smothers them. And then I'm the mama. No,
What is she acting out here?
I don't know, but it's always a motherly thing,
It's so fascinating.
just naturally.
So, okay, so you take that and then also put it with maybe, I would say in general, I'm just going to make the male generalization is that
Right.
most men have some sort of issue with being vulnerable. We're not,
Right.
the majority of dudes that I know are not walking around talking about their feelings all the time. But
Except
as
for me.
artists, we know that our best work is when we emote into what we're doing.
Right.
But we have this, first of all, slight desire, like, I'll choose not vulnerable, and then focus on things, which is gear.
Right.
You have this like thing focus, which is the gear. Like, I love the gadget, I love what I can do with it,
Yeah.
and then you're like, but I don't know if I'm ready to just like open my heart today. I think I'll focus on getting a good sound.
Yeah, it's a distraction.
for later when I'm vulnerable later.
Right.
And
But it's a
later never
good
comes.
that's an example, but it's a good distraction. I think it's a good distraction because
I don't know. Well,
it's a tool. It's like you have to learn how to use your tools if you're going to
I guess
build a house.
you have to have a solid philosophy, though. I would think,
Right.
because you could learn everything there is to know about every piece of gear in here, and avoid the purpose of learning it very easily,
Right.
and get focused. I mean, I find myself doing it sometimes with. I have to remember. I think I've talked about this before on here, but I have such an obsession with drum sounds and especially snare sounds. And I have this like, this is the ideal snare. And every mix I do, like if I can bring that into it, then I'll obsess over the snare.
Yeah.
There are reasons, like it's the thing that's hitting the most during a whole song.
Right.
So it
That's
has
a
to
good
sound
point.
good.
Yeah.
But I have to remind myself, like, don't just go after that awesome cracking snare sound if it's not right for the actual song.
Yeah.
I have to remember, like, what's the right sound for this song?
It's back to that zoom in, zoom out thing. It's the same thing
Yeah.
with gear. Like it's good, but make sure you're still zoomed out because you just start focusing on, for me, it's just guitars and stuff. Like I just have them on the walls and like,
It's
I
a
just want
weird-
to touch them and like play with them. And it's not always a musical thing. It's just like, I just love the way it's built and like it's so sexy and this line and the way
It's so
that this
funny you
works.
started using that terminology, like, I just want to touch them. Because I was like, yeah, we fetishize these things,
Right.
but not in the true meaning of the word fetish. But it does become
Same thing.
an end unto itself. It's like, it's not about the art or the
Right.
expression of how it's serving the song. It becomes just sort of a cool tweaker thing, almost like chops. Chops are the same way.
Technique. Yeah.
Like learning a bunch of technique to the point where
Totally.
like you're never going to use this riff in a song or this fill in a song, or it's super unlikely. Yet that's what you want to learn because it's impressive and
right.
it's more like turning art into a sport as opposed to it serving an expressionistic. I don't know.
Yeah, I catch myself all the time. I just try to remind myself, you don't forget why this is interesting to you in the first place.
Remember, I confronted you on this.
We've talked about it a bunch. We've talked about artists that we've worked with too, and they get a little too obsessed with the gear, and it's like, come on, let's come back to this meat and potatoes over here.
Or too obsessed even with the. This has happened a few times with young artists I've worked with, where the focus becomes the final production aesthetic. Like we'll start writing the song, and there won't even really be a focus in terms of lyrically and why we're writing it, where it's coming from. It'll start to be like, oh yeah, and then it could sound like this, and it could have this cool thing where it's like a big drop, and it's like a boom, and then like,
Yeah, and you're like, slow down,
yeah, you're doing.
not there yet. When
We're
did you?
not ready to dress it up yet. We don't even have a thing. There's no
Right,
person to dress.
Right. And that's where all this stuff comes in. Really, the gears and the technique stuff. It's like a lot of that is just dressing up something. When did you confront me on this?
Oh, well.
Was I not paying attention? Did I tune you out?
Maybe.
Oh, that day. Yeah, I tuned you out.
No, you'll remember. It was like 3 months ago, though. You were consistently sending me cool, like, instrumental riffs and stuff.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I'm like, why aren't you writing song ideas?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're a great songwriter and a great singer. And we've been working together the last, 6 months. And I'm like, you haven't really sent any song. Or not any. There was
It was
I would
mostly
say,
like instrumental pieces. Or whatever,
maybe 15-20% of what you'd send would be like a song, and the rest would be kind of musical beds.
Yeah.
And it was, I think you mentioned that it was like therapeutic for you to just
I think at the
musical.
time, that's all I could spit out. And there was also a part, like there was a time where I think it was just a specific artist we were working with, and we needed songs, and I just had some like
That's true.
some bass, drums, guitar, key ideas or whatever, and then that actually spawned into something. But that was a specific project, so it made sense.
That's true.
For that. But yeah, I remember you said that. I think it was one of those voice memo notes too. You sent me, and you're like, I'm just curious. How come you're a good songwriter? How come you're not writing songs? And I was like, oh yeah, you're right.
Was it a desire to just use music as a happy release as opposed to like a place to get vulnerable and find out what you feel and write a song?
Yeah, for sure. Because
I know I go through phases where that's
it was just a thing.
difficult.
It was just a phase at the time. I was just busy, and I don't know. I kind of remember at the time I just didn't have it in me to sit down and write.
It's a completely
a
different
chorus or
process,
something.
right?
Yeah. Because it is kind of more about that gear side, that tactile, just touching things and playing with stuff, and then having something come out of it. It was more about that.
Is it at that point? Is it music, not really for the sake of it being a communication medium as much as a distraction, like release, fun, technical?
Yeah, distraction is a weird word because we've been using it in a different way, but yeah. For sure, an escape. It's more of like an escape. To me, I've done many things to, escapism in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Putting my head down and putting the headphones on or whatever, and just immersing myself in some sort of project. That's always been the most positive escape that I've ever. I don't know. Escape's not kind of a weird word because it sounds negative, like you're trying to run away from something. But there's nothing wrong with that. I think
more like a release, I guess, or
maybe, yeah. But music is an escape for a lot of people. It's a way to just like flip a switch and your head just kind of goes somewhere else. And, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's just a perspective switch, which is what people need all the time. You need to be able to, like we talk about, zoom in and zoom out of things. I kind of see it like that. It's also the same way as just picking up a guitar as a guitar player. Just take it off the wall and just start playing it. It's like, instantly there's some sort of a push everything out, and this is just me and this instrument, and something might come out of it, something might not, but it just feels good to do it because it's your own thing. Maybe that's part of playing any instrument, is it's just you and that thing, and it's so pure, and everything else gets pushed away.
It makes the life and the world very simple while you're doing it.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, you can control it, you can understand it, kind of.
Yeah,
it's still magical.
My head is not a fun place to be if I'm not consistently creating things and feeling that like here's a thing that was inside that came out, and I'm working on it, making it, or I finished it, and that was like a thumbs up, and on to the next one, and
right.
Or going to sleep and waking up the next day and going like, oh, I want to go in and listen to the progress on that. Like, what's it sound like? Does it sound as good as I thought it did?
Yeah, just like your woodwork and all these things that every time I see you, you're like, oh, check out this bag I just made. Or,
Yeah, that's when I'm one level of unhealthy. Usually I'll start to focus on, I don't know, it's therapeutic, but
right.
Sometimes while I'm even doing it, I'm like, I should be making music right now, but I'm doing this, and it's just sort of a second-rate version.
That's
because I have a belief about the value of creating music,
right? The importance
versus the value of creating one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Here's one leather bag I made. There's one. If I write a song, it can be infinitely copied and shared on the web. It's like it's pretty big difference in the value of it. But then again, I like the quaint special quality of there's one of these, and I just took the time to
it's
focus
special.
on the craftsmanship of it and the quality that there is only one, because it can feel infinitely weird to make something that is just sort of instantly, especially in this day and age, a song. The value of a song has sort of been vaporized in some sense. Like, oh, it's just a song. It's a free thing that you can share.
Yeah, it's a file.
I should get it for free is what people kind of feel these days.
It's invisible. It's not a tangible thing. It should be free.
Yeah.
Like, That's interesting that I've never heard you say that you're woodworking and you're building and you're making stuff. I never heard you put it that way. Like you feel like it's a little bit of
It sometimes plays that role. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other times it's, if I'm in like a healthy spot and I'm making music and then go out to Julian for a few days and get in the workshop and, make a knife out of a file or a bag or some weird, whatever it is I'm doing, then it feels like it's in its proper, it shouldn't be, it's just not, I don't know.
I know the feeling too. But it's interesting because to me, I mean, it makes sense the way you conceptualize that, but to me it's all about the process of doing it, whether it's writing a song or recording something or working with someone else's song. It's like that, just that process. And I'm sure it's the same thing when you're making something.
That's the thing. To me, it's about the process.
So cool.
It should be equally. Sorry, I'm talking over you.
No, I just trying to set you up.
It should be equally 50% about the process and the result is sort of my belief.
Okay.
Because here's how I think of it: I have 2 weeks to live. And I have to create 2 things a week. So 4 more things, and then I'm done forever. Do I make 4 leather bags or 4 songs? Which one's going to be more valuable in the long term? Not 4 leather bags or 4 knives.
I like how you said knives.
4 knives. 4 octopi.
Octopus?
Deers?
Octopuses?
But that to me is like when you break it down like that, you can see the value difference really clearly. Because life is just a series of weeks that you're alive and then you're dead. And I think a deep reason why I love creating music is it's a way to sort of cheat death. I think there's a small part of me that feels like, oh, I'm immortalizing myself by making something that will outlast me.
What's weird about that, though, is that
I'm imprinting my soul onto the physical universe.
There's definitely that. I get that, too. But then again, it's like, if that was the case, you would make one album and be like, cool, next, I'm done.
Well, you want everything that you've ever thought and are still thinking to be sort of out. I don't know. It's a weird.
It just never ends,
I guess it's like Genghis Khan and his didn't he have like thousands of kids?
Oh, because
he had this whole idea like, I want more of me everywhere.
Yeah.
And there's some part of being an artist. Like I feel like I exist when I make a song. Yeah. So the more songs I make, the more I feel like I exist and I'm not isolated.
Here's a question.
There's more of me out.
Do you feel that way before you show it to someone? If it's just something that you've made and it's just for you, so like maybe you'll show it, maybe you'll release the song or whatever, but I'm sure there's stuff that you've just never released, but you've spent time on. Is it still the same thing where it's like, here I am, even though nobody else hears it?
I've thought about this a lot, and there's stuff in my book about it too. But I think there's a most healthy, balanced way to look at it, and that is it's half for you and it's half to connect.
Cool.
And when it becomes, let's say it's all about you, then that's basically narcissism. Like, I don't care what anybody thinks. I just do this for myself, and like it, don't like it, I don't care. But even
that still has some value in it if you're pouring yourself into it and you feel fulfilled when you're doing it.
There's some value, but I think it's a hint into the lack of health in that person mentally. If all they care about is themselves, they don't care if people like it or don't. I feel like the ultimate version of art is that it was awesome and therapeutic and cathartic in some way for the artist, and that at least one person connects to it. Or you connect to yourself through it, and that's still valuable. But I feel like the ultimate is when it's both. Right. Like you make something and it's epic, and then and somebody else hears it and goes like, "Oh, that is the song I needed to hear, or that totally resonates with me. I feel like that completes the circle.
Right.
Expression,
That's
connection
the goal.
circle.
Yeah. That's cool. I've never heard of that either. Like the half and half. Because that says that still puts into context how important it is to have the process. Like it's half as important.
And I believe you shouldn't think about the connection half while making the thing because it poisons it.
Yeah. Is somebody going to think this is cool or is...
Then you change what you did and it's a whole mess.
Yeah.
But so that brings me to you, man. So you're...
Uh-oh. I don't want to talk about myself. I'm here to talk about you.
You've been sort of working on some solo Cory music. It's been a while.
Yeah, I have. Honestly, it's been listening to. I was telling you, I've been listening to the Beatles constantly for the last month straight.
Oh, it's inspired a new.
Totally, and this kind of flies in the face of our last point. But talking about technique, I've been trying to learn some different techniques, some different guitar playing techniques, and some finger style stuff that the Beatles used a lot on like White Album and stuff like that. And
give us an example.
For me, I instantly, right when I learned it, luckily my brain works like this. I instantly start writing. Oh, that makes me want to do this, and then that turned into like 3 or 4 different songs.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
this is called Travis picking, right? Is this the thing you're doing?
Can y'all hear that? Can you guys hear that?
Oh yes.
Yeah. So it's the idea of like your thumb is doing the bass notes, and then your other fingers are filling in the gaps.
Kind of in between.
So that's Julia. It's a Beatles song. So there's that thing going out through the whole thing, and then so it's C to A minor to E minor 7, I guess. That's not even right. That whole thing, that back and forth thing, and
it's so classic. It's like a folk staple.
Yeah. But there's something when you play that and you sing over it. It's almost like there's a little miniature band behind you because you have a bass player.
Yeah, right.
And then you also have somebody filling in the holes, like another.
I just saw a Mark Knopfler video where he was explaining that exact thing.
Send me that video.
Okay.
It does something to you as a songwriter, and
it's like a little motor going.
Yeah. So you have like a rhythm and a bass, and you have the treble notes and stuff. And it's the exact same thing that we were talking about. That guy Donovan from the 70s. He apparently taught John Lennon and Paul McCartney how to do that.
Oh.
And he said the same thing. He's like, right after they learned it, then you get Blackbird, you get Happiness is a Warm Gun has it. Like there's just from that time period when they wrote all those songs. That's right when they learned that picking pattern. So you hear it in all these songs, and
it's pretty cool. It's like a little template that you can.
Are we gonna get sued for this?
Yeah, we are.
So all that stuff, right after they learned how to do it, then they just took it and made something out of it, and then just started writing songs.
What's interesting, and that connects right to it, is like I remember 2 distinct moments where one, a friend, this guy Matt Ellingson, showed me these voicings. Oh my gosh, my finger. But these like
the thirds, yeah. I love those.
And once I learned those, I was like, oh, I'm writing 1,000,000 songs with that. Because once
that's
you start
in a lot of your songs.
And then I found the minor versions, which is
yep. And you're off to the races.
And I was like, oh, that speaks to me. But
yeah, and that's just a technique. So
it's a technique that you could like, oh, that's a foundation I can lay a bunch of crap on. And then the other one was the idea of playing basic voicings, but doing internal melodies using the B string, just like.
Sure. You're still playing the same chord though. Yeah.
Big Band-Aid on my finger. Speaking of making stuff, I have this industrial sander.
Is that what
I had this like tiny piece of wood that I was pushing against it real hard, and I slipped and just basically went bzzz, and like poked the sander. And
what does your friend Cory tell
took
you
a
every
good
time? Get some gloves, put them on your hands. I know you can't feel this stuff as well. I know it, but you do it. Oh, you took the nail off.
Yeah, I took
put that in front of the camera so we can get an X rating on this video.
Maybe I'll put a still image in of it.
Hold on. Oh, you
And
took a
see,
nail
that
right
too.
off.
Both fingers went, and it just freaking.
The other one.
The other one's not bad. It's just the nail.
Ah, dude, that might
This one hurt.
grow back kind of funky.
Yeah, this looks like it. I'm maimed, like a tiny maiming.
Oh, when you said that, you had a sad eye.
Yeah, maimed.
I've been maimed. There's some gloves. You should make gloves. That should be your next project. So then you can make something with the
Out
gloves
of
on.
wood.
Make wooden gloves.
Wooden gloves.
It'll work. It'd be great.
You're like a robot.
Like chainmail gloves or something.
Nah, it's happened before. I didn't. Just got the fingernail before.
You're not going to ever protect your fingers. One day
No.
you're going to be zoom, there goes a finger.
Dude, and I'm always grinding stuff and not wearing. I have this like 1 micron, mask, and I'm like, just grinding a little thing, and then I realized I grinded a lot of things today and
Oh man,
breathed in iron and
Yeah.
brass and weird exotic woods.
I've breathed in a lot of asbestos and insulation in my life just from working like construction jobs, and I always think like, is that how I'm going to die? Mesothelioma? Is that going to be the thing that gets me? 'Cause
Black mold.
Ugh.
What is
Yeah.
it called? Not osteochondritis dissecans. That was the disorder.
What? Say that again.
Osteochondritis dissecans. I had that in my knee.
Did you just make that up?
It's a real thing. It's when it was like right in my knee joint. It wasn't getting enough circulation,
Ooh.
and I had to wear like a brace for. I felt like it was 2 or 3 months, but I think it might have been 6 weeks.
When was this?
I was a little dude.
Oh, I was going to say, it's not
It
from
made me
sitting
quit
down too much?
gymnastics. I was quite the gymnast.
Oh, you could have been a star gymnast.
Dude, I could have been somebody.
I bet you could have done something with your life, man.
But anyway, it wasn't that. I also had Osgood Slaughter.
Wait,
That's
what?
another knee issue.
The craziest.
Osgood Slaughter.
names.
See this bump on my knee?
Yeah,
It's
that's
when
a
the
slaughter bump.
nerve grows over that a little bit, and then cartilage goes over the nerve.
Oh.
So right here used to be like really like sensitive. That's Osgood Slaughter.
Yeah, you can
Plus
see it.
osteochondritis dissecans. But what I was trying to think of.
I've got a bone spur. See that thing?
Oh!
That's just bone growing back weird, but it still hurts. If I tap this, ooh, it's like a funny bone times 10. It just shoots electricity.
Well, that's a
I'm like,
cyst, dude. I'm supposed to crush that for you.
dude, okay, hit it real hard with the hammer.
Just put it on the table, and I will smash it.
Can you? Well, here's the thing. I've asked a doctor, like, what do you do for that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I have to have surgery. And I'm like, well, what do they do? They go, oh, they just grind the bone down. So they just take a sander, like a belt sander, and just. So we could probably do it at your shop.
you could do it at the shop,
Just
dude.
get the skin out of the way first. We'll
Just get it
chop
real.
that right
just
off.
Put some ice on it. You won't feel
And
it.
just right into the grinder.
Dude, elbow skin is stuff's crazy. You can pinch your elbow as hard as you want and it doesn't hurt.
That's right. It's really flexy and extra.
Yeah, that's a special zone of the body. My friend Tony, the bass player in my band, Bulkhead,
Tony
Tarusa from Supertones, we were all messing around with our elbow skin and going like, dude, it doesn't even hurt. And I'm like, take this safety pin and push it through your elbow skin. And he did it. It just went
Really? Pierced
Like-
his elbow.
pierced his elbow and it didn't hurt.
Did he put a little ring in there, a little stud?
Should have.
I don't think that would catch on. It does not look cool. There's nothing cool about an elbow.
That's true. You don't want to pull focus to the elbow.
No.
What the heck were we talking about before? There's a word I was trying to think of.
Osteoporosis? You have any more ailments you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Long names?
Parotid gland.
Carotid artery. I like that one. Carotid. I don't even know what that means.
Good name for a rock band.
Carotid artery. Sounds tough.
What's the name of that band? Is it Dying Fetus or
There's one called,
is that what they're called? It's a heavy metal band?
something about a fetus.
Yeah. Not dying. Is it just Dead Fetus?
Might be.
What
I don't
a
listen to
band.
that.
Anyway, so you're working on. Are you going to do an EP? What's the deal?
I don't know. I have no idea. I just want to be busy. That's all. And if
That's it? That's a low bar.
I know that doesn't sound very.
I'll make you busy, man. My car's dirty.
I don't want to dig a trench being busy.
Busy.
No, it's a muscle, right? Don't you think your creative muscle needs to be exercised? If you want it to get stronger or if you want to keep it, I think you can atrophy that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Atrophy.
It's a little bit like riding a bike.
Yeah, like you're not going to forget how
Some
to do
of
it.
it.
But your vocabulary, I think, if you want to write stuff, like let's say you're writing a novel or writing a book or a
Yeah.
song, whatever, I feel like you want to load up on as much of the best kind of inspiration that you can, and you want to work at it. That doesn't make sense. You want to continually and put your energy into it. If you don't, you can't just expect to not put the work in and then just pick up an instrument one day and just be like, oh, here's something magical. I mean, it could happen, but the odds are a lot lower. So I always feel like I got to do something, whether I'm learning how to work this recording program or whether I'm figuring something out, I have to do something. And what's better than, writing songs in your room by yourself, even if no one hears it. To me, it's like, I know this is a great song to me, but I might never show it to anybody. I don't know. I got to find the right outlet, the right way to do it. But it's been really inspiring digging into a band like the Beatles, probably the best band of all time. Probably the first band I ever heard too, because when I was a kid, I had my mom's records. And did you have those little Fisher-Price record players when you were a kid?
Yellow Submarine.
Plastic.
Or no,
really?
I think that was the one there was this Beatles song that I had too on that same plastic record player.
Yeah.
Fisher-Price thing.
And I think that was probably the first band I ever really heard.
No, it was Octopus's Garden was the one that I heard.
It's like a kid song. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's also interesting. Beatles have a ton of songs that are like children's songs. Well, Yellow Submarine.
They're usually the Ringo songs, aren't they?
Yeah, and you know what's cool about
Those
that?
are the ones that are most fun.
There's a couple songs that Ringo wrote, but he said Ringo's the coolest. If you watch him in interviews, he's so funny. He's just so nonchalant, and he was a fan of those guys before he was in the band.
Okay,
he was like, I just love the front line, George, Paul, and John. He's like,
he's so deadpan. Yeah,
but he said somebody was asking him oh, so did you collab? Because everything is like Lennon and McCartney. It's all they credited those two guys for everything, no matter if one had more of it or whatever.
They had a little agreement.
And they were asking Ringo, so did you, the songs that you sang, some of them are still just Lennon McCartney. Did you help write those songs? And he just goes, no, they just told me, here, sing this. So they just would hand him songs, be like, you're singing this one, Ringo. It's so rad. And I'm sure there was something in those songs that thought it would be cool and quirky if he did it, because he has a kind of a quirky voice or whatever.
Yeah.
But he sings a lot of the children-y kind of songs, for sure.
And it was part of the marketing too, right? Because it was the Fab Four. So early in the career, there was you're that guy and you're that guy.
Yeah.
You're the brooding dude. You're the baby face. You're the this, they're the that.
And you watch.
And he was the absurdist humor guy.
Yeah. They were all super funny, but he was probably the silliest.
Yeah.
But I was watching them, Beatles at Budokan or whatever, back in the day. It was the early records. And the first song, they come out, and it's probably I Want to Hold Your Hand or something, and or one of those songs, and John singing. And the next song, Paul, they introduce, here's Paul, he's going to sing this next song called whatever. And then Paul sings the song. And then the third song, George sings. And they're we'd like to play this song for you, and George is going to, and then they kind of give a little love to each guy, and then it's Ringo's song, and they're Ringo's going to sing, then all the Ringo girls. And then at the end of it, John's thanks, Ringo. They were just these four characters, and they were all different.
What just a crazy the best time of all music.
Time. Yeah, man.
You know what's funny is I've never been. Well, let me be careful how I say this. Why do I have to be careful?
Don't be.
But
careful.
I've never been a huge Beatles fan. But I'll do a quick but. Is that
big but?
There are a handful of Beatles songs that I think are amazing, and I super love them. But I've never. It's my connection to the Beatles has never been oh, that's my thing. Even though I know they're one of the greatest bands ever, and my favorite Beatles songs tend to be the ones that are, I guess, unlike most of their songs, I guess, in some sense.
Which is hard because they're all so different.
They are.
And everybody talks about everyone expected the Beatles' next record to be oh, the last one, and even the White Album, especially because it was after Sgt. Pepper, and everybody's oh, they're gonna do another concept record with all these orchestras, and they just went in there and just jammed, and it was just the band just playing.
Right.
That's why I love those records so much, because a lot of them are just recorded live, and that's why they have different takes. Here's take 9, and they didn't use this take or whatever.
Especially early on, right?
It's a little messy sometimes, but you hear a band playing, and you hear how good each one of them is. You know?
I think I like the Beatles songs that go towards classical and blues, but the ones that go towards jazz and almost like a classic
rock and roll kind of stuff.
That's cool. It's more that area of, for example, the way the harmonic feeling of A Long and Winding Road. I know that's a great song, but it's almost like a Burt Bacharach
Yeah.
real classic, like Hammerstein and whatever the other guy's name was, type of classic songwriting with lots of 7 chords and chord key changes that have a certain jazzy feeling to it.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I just don't connect to that as much as I do a song like Don't Let Me Down or Come Together or Strawberry Fields, which feels very kind of angular and orchestral in the way it's changing keys.
Oh, for sure. So you might be more of a John Lennon guy then.
I guess so.
He always had like the quirkier changes
But I almost wonder if, since you don't know who wrote what with the whole Lennon-McCartney thing, I wonder if there's McCartney changes with Lennon rawness.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know.
Well, they would finish each other's songs. So it was like you got
true.
both. You don't really know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm the opposite, dude. Like I can just listen to that all day. I can listen to the Beatles all day long, for sure.
I like the Beatles as filtered through Chris Cornell and Alan Johannes.
Oh, so like for
it's
sure.
like dark psychedelic Beatles.
But you hear the Beatles in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Euphoria Morning is like that. You hear the whole...
It's the Beatles filtered through nihilism and depression.
Yeah, because they were kind of happy.
Yeah, they were about love.
I mean, John was a little...
He was a little
pissed
dark.
off.
Yeah.
Which was cool. But definitely like... I mean, I always gravitated towards Paul a little more, like Paul's songs for some reason. I don't know why. There's something when I hear his voice, and it reminds me of even like hearing when I was a kid. Like it's just the most soothing voice.
That's velvety, man.
And his personality comes out when he sings, and he's just like very jovial and like light about everything, and everything's kind of happy.
It's so interesting that combination of people.
Mm-hmm.
That I was thinking of it like take a couple things. Take away the Beatles. Take away. Let's just do 2. Take away the Beatles. Take away Steve Jobs. What world are we living in? How much?
Apples, less apples.
Yeah, that's true. Apple Records and Apple computers.
Yeah. See what I did there?
Ooh, an apple a day. Some connection
if we had no
here.
apples, man, we would be screwed.
Let's call this the Apple Podcast. It's good luck.
Yeah.
But think about it. So personal computing, iPhone, all the stuff that Steve Jobs was responsible for, at least playing a huge role in making happen.
Yeah.
And then the Beatles influencing so many bands and the fabric of pop music.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine what wouldn't be here. It's impossible to imagine, but you think those 2, or let's say 5 human beings, or if you just say Lennon, McCartney, whatever, just a handful of people that have like made a significant difference in culture and technology.
Well, especially the Beatles. I mean, they say, dude, I got to read this quote from Rolling Stone. It was something like, make a list of the most successful, prolific songwriters of all time. Make a list, like all time. Could be anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And now filter that list to those same artists that you just made a list of that are still around, still making great songs. And there's one name, and it's Paul McCartney. That's
so weird.
Yeah, and they say he's the most successful songwriter of all time. I think he has like 70 hits, #1 singles or something. It's crazy, 60 or 70.
And he's the most humble guy too.
Yeah.
See,
pure. When I
pie.
see that guy as an artist or just as a human, there's just purity. Like that is a goal, because it just seems like he's had like yesterday he woke up, the song yesterday had it in a dream, woke up, and there was another song too. I can't remember what song it is. He woke up, had
scrambled eggs.
Yeah, scrambled eggs. Something just so pure about that, and those kind of people, like,
you know
we
what's
need
interesting
those
about
kind of
him?
people.
Sorry, did I interrupt?
No, that's it. Just pure. It's just that is just purity. It's just creative purity.
It's so interesting too, and maybe that's part of why my connection with the Beatles is somewhat at a distance. But his purity comes from, I think, and maybe this is too presumptuous, but it's a lot from imagination and talent.
Mm-hmm.
And then
as opposed to
music as a much needed therapeutic release.
Mm.
Like you can hear more angst in John Lennon, or you can there's more in, for that example, Soundgarden, or you look at Nirvana, tends to be heavier, darker music, but it's the imagination is involved, but they're actually looking to get something out that has to come out, and it's much more a cathartic experience. Where I feel like somebody like Paul McCartney, in general, he seems like his disposition is more happy, positive, all about love, and he's just a brilliant guy, and he writes these great songs, and it's almost more of a classical composer, I guess, personality and talent set, as opposed to a singer-songwriter, even though he's the ultimate singer-songwriter.
Yeah. He was also kind of the leader. Like they talked about he was the driving force. Like they would just be like, "Oh, we're not."
He was ambitious.
Yeah, like, hey, you get him on the phone. Like, we should go in the studio today. Like, let's do this. And
Yeah.
they'd be like, okay. He was the one that was. Yeah, he had all that stuff too. But I don't know. I see what you're saying, but that's part of the purity, though. It's like it's not tempered by negative emotions necessarily. It's just he opens his mouth and it comes out. Let It Be. He had it in a dream. That came to him in a dream because his mother Mary. He's talking about his mom. You know. And what's funny about that is John Lennon didn't apparently. I don't know if this is true or not because everybody likes to do the controversial, stir up the pot. John Lennon didn't like that song because he said there was too much like religious connotation because Mother Mary.
Oh, right.
You know, but even though it was just about his mom. And then on the record, if you listen to the song before it, leading into that, you hear John make a little snide comment. He says something about, and now we'd like to hark the herald angels or something. And then they start playing Let It Be. And that was like him just being a little smart, you know,
snarky
smart
about
guy
like,
in the back. Yeah.
no religious songs.
Anyways, the point is that kind of person where I'm sure it's not. I'm sure he works hard at it, but it just seems like that's the kind of person that just opens his mouth and just blup, magic comes out. You know, even the earlier songs, are all great. Every song is just catchy and amazing.
He has this very buoyant, positive spirit.
Right.
And I think...
Is that better for being creative?
Well, it's better for living long, obviously, because two of the Beatles are dead.
Right.
The two that were a little bit more...
darker, edgier.
Darker, edgier, and introverted maybe.
Yeah,
but I also
tricky.
think that lyrically...
Maybe not as intense.
Paul's stuff, not as in depth. And when he would get a musical idea, often like it would be scrambled eggs or a dream. And then maybe John Lennon was more adding the I don't know, the tension that was in the lyrics and the meaning more so. And I think Paul maybe was just musically more so.
John also
more driven by music.
I think John also had way more nonsense lyrics. You know, I was looking into that too. There's a lot of songs that just don't mean anything. Like on purpose.
Abstract painting style, right?
Yeah. But like they say that I Am the Walrus, he did on purpose.
Yeah.
Those lyrics mean nothing because at the time people were analyzing. Same with Glass Onion.
Yeah,
and he's like
sarcastic.
He's just like making, and he just throwing it out there to mess with people. Like they knew everyone was going to analyze every line that they wrote.
Same with Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Yeah.
People thought that was an on purpose LSD, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Which it does seem like it is.
But they claim no, right?
I guess, yeah.
But I guess who knows what they claim.
Yeah, who knows? But they did admit there's just a lot of nonsense lyrics, and they would just do that to mess with people.
But I almost wonder if even at nonsense lyrics, if are coming from somewhere usually,
right, yeah. Totally.
If there is some reason why it's appealing, maybe it is subconscious.
But even that though, even if nonsense meaning like it doesn't tell a story in a classic way, like here's a beginning, middle, and end, and
right,
it's telling you,
or it's about something.
Yeah, something specific. But there's still, you know, that happened a lot in the '90s. I think, you know, a lot of rock bands did that, and it was like I love that because it's not always one story. It's like you can take a line out of a song, and like, oh, that line from that Nirvana song, like really such a cool line. It might not be what the song's about, but you can still hit people with like one line that's really strong.
And I think when you
powerful.
You don't necessarily need to know what you're writing about when you're writing a song. And if you, but if you have some, just that, I call it like the pregnant feeling, like something's got to come out. I don't even know what I'm writing about yet. And you let symbolic, metaphoric, seemingly abstract, meaningless lyrics come out in hindsight. In hindsight, that stuff can, you're like, oh, that actually does mean something. Or there was some underlying subconscious, like you said, thing. Like
you're right.
Chris Cornell is really great at that.
Oh yeah,
like Black Hole Sun, like does he know what it's about? I feel like I've heard interviews where he's like, I was just writing stuff down, but it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, that's huge. I think songwriters should. That's a good lesson for anybody that's writing, because if you sit down, you're like, oh, this has to make sense. It has to be a story. You know, like a classic pop song, it has to have one meaning and throughout the whole thing, and I have to sum it all up in the bridge or whatever it is.
I think that can shut down your right hemisphere.
Yeah, it's like it's okay to just write something that you don't think means a specific package of a story or something. It's okay to just write, maybe it's nonsense, but maybe you figure out what it is later. Or maybe it's a line that just kind of comes out when you sing over these chord changes, and then you figure out what it means later, and you may have to tweak something. But there's something really cool about that. It's freeing because you won't get stuck. You know, you're just sitting there writing lyrics like you're writing an essay or something. It doesn't have to be like that.
And there's language is so deep. Like the way we connect words to things and feelings can be based on the definition of the word, based on the context of the word, based on your own history with the word, based on the sound of the word.
I think on the chord underneath the word, that if it's a song, right?
And how they interact.
That can change the meaning of something.
And I think of, because I've used Smells Like Teen Spirit as sort of a teaching tool before, because it's such a
contrast,
well-written song, in so many ways. But when you look at a mosquito, what is it? A mulatto, an albino, a mosquito, my libido. Yeah. When you look at that, you're just kind of like, oh, well, there's 4 things that are just weird.
That sound good together.
But it's more than that. Because when you really take a look at it and try to find logical connections.
I never have.
Like a mulatto, an albino, I don't forget what order they come in. But you think of, well, that's a combination. It's like a derogatory term for a combination, like black and white race mix. Then you have an albino, which is like ultra white. And then you have this tiny thing, a mosquito, and then he puts it all with my libido. So you're like, ooh, there's some sort of feeling like he has this tiny insect, like fragile little thing, and a mosquito has like I don't know. There's all these like little weird connections you can draw.
It paints a picture for sure.
Paints a picture of like opposites, and then he sets you up with here's a little tiny thing, and then my libido. So like he feels impotent in the world. In that song,
that makes sense in the song for sure.
Yeah, because he's like, I'm an outcast, but I'm just like you, and I don't care, and with the lights out, it's less dangerous. Here we are now, entertain us. I feel stupid and contagious. Here we are now, entertain us. And then he goes,
it gives me the chills just listening to those lyrics. So
he says all that stuff. It gets super vulnerable and angry in the chorus, but in the verses, he's really detached and watching.
Yeah.
And hello, 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 hello. He's just sort of like, And the first verse lyrics are,
fill up on guns.
Yeah, load up on guns. Bring your friends. It's easy to whatever and pretend.
Mm-hmm.
And then she starts talking. He starts kind of like judging some girl and saying a few things about her, and then the pre-chorus is hello, 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 and then he gets like, with the lights out, it's less dangerous.
And at that point, he's yelling into the microphone.
Yeah, and it's the first time he brings himself into it. I feel stupid and contagious, like I'm an outcast.
Yeah,
but we're all outcasts. When you look at the video too, you see like, outcast rockers and crazy cheerleaders with the lights out, all going nuts. And then at the end, he's a mosquito, my libido, and then it's just sort of like, ooh,
yeah, that is.
There's an impotence.
Really looked at it in that depth before. It's hard to look into things that are that close to your adolescent childhood time, because to me that was like whatever. Your high school or high school, and those songs are just like, it's hard to analyze that kind of stuff because it's so ingrained in me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost like analyzing yourself. It's harder than it's easy to judge someone else and be like, well, that's this person's problem. Their problem is this. It's really hard to see it on yourself because you're in your own body, you know?
So you're talking about like seeing the value or what the depth of that song?
The depth of the lyric. I've never even had a thought of it. I just always thought of it. It's like, oh, cool sounding. I don't know. I'm just used to it, you know?
Yeah, and I came to it through, like, I've always loved that, not always, but it's a really great song that became a huge song that was like the
defining thing.
Fuse that lit a whole big moment in the history of music, the grunge, whatever. And so I'm like, well, that's a powerful song. So what's going on in there? And it, as I talk about like my techniques around songwriting with contrast. It's a lesson in contrast
for sure,
in an amazing way,
in every way.
And my theory is the more contrast there is in a song, the more memorable it is, the more powerful it is. And then if there's meaning inside the contrast, lyrically, like you get all these stacking layers of contrast.
Right.
The song itself contrasted to the music that came before it. So even there's contrast, cultural contrast. You had like Poison and White Lion and Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston, and then all of a sudden Smells Like Teen Spirit. But lyrically, until I started going, I'm gonna dissect this song melodically and musically and see where exactly the contrast is. Then you look at the lyrics, and there's extreme contrast in the lyrics, and there's all this meaning, and it's like,
and just the dynamics of the song itself. I mean, instrumentally, just
they invented the quiet loud. Yeah.
Yeah,
they
but then
didn't invent
again,
it, but they made it popular.
But they nailed it, you know. I mean, that was something Metallica was doing too. Like real beautiful classical guitar stuff, and then bam, you know, and then come back. What song is that? I'm blanking right now, but you don't really hear that much in modern music. It's like everything's loud in your face all the time. We're missing that like really extreme. And even the Beatles, they would do it with time signatures. They would change from like 3/4 to 4/4 in a second. Doom, doom, boom. The sea in the sky. You know, that whole thing. It just, but
the
I don't know
Police
how
too.
you do that. Police did that too.
They would always have that reggae verse and then go into a backbeat chorus or something,
So
like with
cool.
Message in a Bottle or Roxanne.
So hard to make that
Spirits in the
work.
Material World.
Have you ever tried going that route specifically in a song? Like just completely shifting gears?
Yeah. Done
It's
it
so hard to make
quite
it.
a lot. I love it.
Yeah, that's a trick. It's always easier to go back into the thing before, I think, than going into the strange part. You know what I mean? Like it's easier to go back.
Yeah, it depends on how weird.
Yeah, you have a couple songs that melodically, like really, go from dark to darker. Oh,
Dumb and Dumber.
darker and darker.
I like it with rhythmic stuff too.
Yeah, you're a master.
Lots of little ways to do that. Anyways.
What I'm saying is I can't do it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, right.
Everybody else can do it.
Mr. Humble over here.
You and the Beatles can do it, but I can't do it.
When's your EP coming out?
May 31st, 2025.
Sweet.
That sounds like a good time, right?
See you there. That's probably when the studio will be finished in Julian.
Perfect.
Only 7 years to go.
Should we wrap it up?
Let's wrap it up.
Getting blown up over here.
Yeah. All right.
We love you.
We love you a lot. Good night and good morning.